and I'm gonna share my screen. All right. So by now you should have already finished like your little worksheet or whatever, and so you should have it filled out, with all the different biographical information about your person. Um, so I wanted to give you guys an example. So I'm gonna work through one live with you, and the reason why I want you guys to separate it and not just do any old Google slide presentation is I want you guys to start getting familiar with some of the tools that we'll use in this class in a very manageable, small scale way. So there are a couple of techniques and things I'm going to show you guys that I think will be cool and fun if you make it that way. Um, but the first thing we'll do is we'll go into Google Slides and we'll create a Google slide. I already kind of got started, so I'm going to erase some of mine. All right. So anytime we do Google Slides, the ratio is 16:9, right? So don't really pay attention to what those numbers mean. Just know they're 16:9. And then, but on the flip side, like an HD video or anything like that, it's also 16:9. The dimensions though are 1920 by 1080. I don't know if you guys remember this. Many of y'all are buying TVs. So at one point, 1080p was like the big thing for HD. Now it's 4K, and then we're going to branch out into where they're doing 8K and 12K. So, but for the most part, even those have the same aspect ratio, which is 16:9. Now, why is that important? Because when we go through these different platforms, like whether we're using Photopea or if we're using Canva, we want to make sure that we keep the same aspect ratio. So when we bring it back into our Google Slide presentation, it's the right size. Okay. Fun fact: the reason why VHS videos look like that is because the aspect ratio is 4:3. That's why you have those little black bars on the side. All right. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to photopea.com. Okay, photopea.com is where I'll be doing a lot of my creating. Okay, and so we'll talk about a couple different ways in which we can handle this. Okay, so the first way, let's say I wanted to draw something, and I'm not gonna draw it right now. I probably should have. That would have been a lot more fun. Next time I'll do that. I do that in my other classes, but I didn't think to do it for this one. Okay, so let's say if I am using Hebrew Brantley, like I really like Hebrew Brantley's work, and I want to do like uh, a slide dedicated to him. So what I can do is I can take this picture right here, and if it pulls up in my browser like this at the bottom, I can just drag it. Okay, I can just drag it right here into the project. Now, one key thing when we pull this in, let me delete it so you guys can see what I'm doing. So once I pull this in, all right, up here it's gonna have arrows. All right. Now the arrow, anytime you see an arrow, not arrow, sorry, a check and an X, anytime you see that, that means that some type of change is going on. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna resize it. Now what I don't want to do is resize it like this. Okay. What I'll do is I'll hold Shift. Right now I'm holding Shift on my keyboard. Shift is right above Control, and I'm gonna drag it so that it's proportional. Right. Now, I might not be able to get this whole image here. I'm not really worried about that. Right now, I'm just going to fill up my screen so it looks really nice. Okay. So once I fill up my screen, now I have to figure out what kind of colors I'm going to use. So what I can do is I can say, what kind of artwork does he make? And I can actually pull from an old painting material. So we talked about using that our move tool and importing something, right? So now move tool is this tool right here. That's the only way you can move anything. If I click on another tool, I'm on the wrong screen. If I click on another tool, then I can't move it anymore. I can do a selection if I want to delete the part of it, but as far as being able to move it, I can't move it until I go back to my move tool. So if I want to move anything, if I want to resize it, I have to do that. Now, one thing that yours might not have those different anchors or that box around it if you don't have transform controls selected. Okay? If I don't have that selected, then it's not going to show anything. But once I have that selected, I can move it. So that's how I move to. So now, that leads me to my next point. Now, if I ever want to take the colors, because I really want to use colors that he's already used before. So let's say I want to get a brown off the face of this kid, right? So I can hit I can hit my letter I, or I can actually come over here to my tool panel and hit this thing that looks like a syringe. And that's called our eyedropper. And the eyedropper pretty much samples colors from all over the um, project. So if I hit that, if we look right here, our foreground color changed to the same color on his face. Okay? So now all I have to do is move this back up, and I'll go here to where my gradient tool is, and I go down and I get the paintbrush tool. And some of you guys remember Microsoft Paint. You probably used it before. What I can do is I can get my paint tool and I get this color. But I have to make sure I rasterize it first, because it's not gonna let me do it without rasterize. So what I do is I right click over here, I right click and I rasterize. That's really important because it won't allow you to do anything if you don't rasterize it first. So we rasterize it first. Then we'll come over here and now I can color it. Now it'll be the same for her. I think all of these are good. I just saw the detail. And this one kind of colored funny. That's all right. I'm just showing you an example. Uh, big thing that you want to do, because I didn't do this in the example, is if you look for a photo, like especially something you want to color. So right now this one is 800 by 534. I might want to find something that's a little bit larger. So let's see how big is this one. This one's a little bit bigger, 1170. But you can go into tools, size, large, and then it might pull up larger images. Let's see. What's going on here? So this one's kind of the same size. Let me see what size is this one. Also, it's the same size. What size is this one? Yeah, all of these are coming in kind of small. There used to be a point on Google where you could pull in way larger images. Let's see, social works. In fact, this one might work a little bit better. So if I go save images, just so we don't get those weird lines and the computer can pick up better. But the concept is still the same. So I'll pull that photo in. Yep, it's a little bit larger. So I'll pull the photo in. And you can do it with pretty much any major artist. You can find like different pages and stuff with Picasso with it. You saw I had that just that one. And then now when I go in the color forehead and stuff like that, that's a little bit better. Remember, we have to rasterize it first. And then now I can color. And so it's a lot cleaner because the lines are a lot better. So that's just something to consider. And let's say if I want to go back and get another color, let's say if I want green, if I want to keep using kind of his color palette, I'm going to get green. And I don't know, we could do like a tripod plus type thing. Put like green up in here. And then whenever I'm doing artwork, this is just me personally. Black is always the darkest color, so I try to avoid using black straight on. So a lot of times I use like a dark gray, so we can still get the appearance of something that's very dark, but without kind of boxing us in. I'm kind of going through coloring her hair, and you keep going until you finish coloring in. But the big thing is getting a high quality like coloring book page, or hopefully you guys will use your own images and you'll draw your own stuff. And just kind of take a picture of it, and then you can do the same thing. All right. So that's how that works if we want to use either one of our images, or you want to do like a coloring book page and things like that. That's how that can work. You can use your eyedropper tool and your paint bucket tool. But you got to remember that before you can do it, you must rasterize it by going over there, right click, and then hitting rasterize. We've already done it, so it's grayed out. So, well, what's the other ways in which we can kind of create our slides? Because really, this is what we're doing. We're creating slides. I can come over here and I can go to a website called remove.dg. Okay, and I really like this website because it doesn't. I don't have to do all the work that Photoshop does now. I use this when I'm in a pinch. If I am doing like, let's say if I'm doing like banners or something, then I'm probably not going to use this because if I blow it up, you're going to see a lot more imperfections. Okay, so here we are. Right here. So, and it removes that background for me by itself. All right. So all I have to do is drag that image in. This is remove.dg.com, and it will remove that background. And then we have the same thing. All we have to do is drag that image in and resize it. And remember, we don't want Hebo Grant looking like he been eating all the COVID. Right? We want to make sure that we keep whole shift down so that we keep its proportions. Okay. So make sure you hold the shift down. My keep on this down. That's what I'm be doing. All right. Okay. So now, and this is a little bit advanced, this thing that we're about to do now. Now we need to develop some contrast. Because I want to put text in, but I feel like there might be too much. There may be too much. What am I trying to say? Things are clashing too much. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a gradient. Now there are a couple ways you can do a gradient. Okay. Okay. So we can go back to where our paint bucket tool is. We're going to use, instead of using the paint bucket, we're going to use our gradient tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my gradient of two of the colors from that palette. So I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna steal this lime green looking color right here. And then I'm also gonna come back in and use steal. I hit X right here and just look at the bottom left of my screen. It's changing my foreground and my background color. So once it's on the bottom, it's no longer the primary color that's being used. I'll hit my eyedropper tool again, and now I have that brown. I thought I had the rules. So now I have the brown. And so if I get my gradient tool over here, then I can drag in this layer right here. Diagonal. I like diagonal gradients. You can probably make it at an angle like that. And it gives me a little bit of a gradient, right? So where's oh, here. So I can kind of pop him out, right? Now he stands out a little bit more. Now if I want a bigger gradient, mine was turned down, then I can go and get a bigger gradient by using that same tool on that same layer. And I can drag it out. And boom. Now it covers up everything. So now my gradient is a lot bigger. But I don't think I like that. So maybe I want, and if I do something I don't like, I can always hit Control Z to undo. Control Z to undo. Okay. And I might do like a mini worksheet with you guys just so you can kind of learn some of the tools for this guy. All right, so I think I like that. I can still kind of see my background and then it's still kind of have a face in there. All right, so this might be one of my slides. All right, I've already put text in, so I know that that's how I want it to look. I'm gonna move him up just a little bit, and I might move him over so you can kind of see his whole name. Yeah, and so it says Hughes Brantley, you know. So I might at the bottom I might want to put Hughes Brantley project. I can go to my text tool right here, and I can type in project. Now, in the same way that I'm particular about colors and contrast with my colors, I do the same thing with my typefaces. So I always try to use one or two typefaces. So I will use something decorative like this, like kind of this um, what do I call it? Like graffiti, almost handwritten typeface, and then I might do something that's a little bit more played down, like sans serif. From here, sans serif. So like there's days right here. Yeah. And then I just need to resize it. Resize it. Project. On my shift key. And I might put that in. And the cool part is I can come back and if I want more contrast, right? If I don't want everything to be white, I can come and pull from I can make it black or I know that red is kind of in that same palette. I come up here and I get red, but I'm making kind of like a more muted red or less saturated red. All right. So that's how I can create my first lot. So I can use this method, or um, I can use the other method. All right, and there are a million different ways you can do this, guys. I'm just kind of showing you some of the ways that are more standard to me, and that how people use these traditionally. Okay, and we'll have to Thursday. I was gonna do it Wednesday, but I know some people were missing Friday, and I guess people missing the day. So I'm gonna give you guys to Thursday to do this. This is a major grade, so we do need to get this done. Um, the criteria is that you have to have 5 images. So technically, right now, if you use the image of him and the image of the background in the background, that's 2 images. So you need 5 images, and then you're gonna fit your other text in. Some suggestions, right? So if I do all this work to get like this really nice background on this one, then what I'm gonna do. So of course I'm gonna save this. So let's save this first. So I'm gonna go File, Export, JPEG, right? So then I save that. So I got that one. Boom. Now, and I do this all the time when I'm doing presentations for a client, for a proposal. All right, once I develop that real nice background, now I kind of have a template, right? So I go File, Export, JPEG, Save. So when I come into Google Slides, so I'm gonna add a new slide. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go change the background. All right. So I'm gonna choose. I got 2 images to choose from. Good Lord, this thing is like it's like coming. All right. Um, let's see. Lead site. I think it's photo people. Yeah, maybe not because it's still at home. All right. All right. So I'm gonna add my first, like my title slide, and you might want to put your name on it. You can put your name on it. I didn't put my name on mine. But the way we're turning them in is not as big of a deal. Uh, so then I can go here, I can change my background, choose image, and I can go and grab the blank one, all right? And now I got a blank slide that I can now type on top of, right? So when we talk about doing like going into doing this type of stuff, let's see. Now, let me change my layout. So let's do this. Let's do this. No, let's do this. All right. So it kind of changed my doggone background too. That's all right. Cause I'm just gonna add it background. Oh, and then you can also add it to the thing. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna add it to the thing. Hopefully that changes the first one. If it does, we can have to go add it. But I can add it to the thing, and it did change the first one. But it's all right. I can go and change it. That okay. Yeah, my computer's doing better now. That's what it is. Program out. And I'm also recording too, so that's probably why it's like my computer like wheezing. All right. So I'm gonna add text right here, and let's see. I'm gonna do it like so. So even with here, all right. So I don't want to do all this work, right? I did all this work just for my text to be ragged, right? So I can come right here. I want to make sure my text is legible. So I don't want this spanking gray. All right. I could do something like that, a black background, but I feel like that's tacky. But I can just kind of work to find a color that works. So let's try white. Let's see how white reads for this thing. So white reads pretty good. So now I got something that looks okay. Um, and now I'm working some other things. So now I can hit Control B. This is in Google Slides now. And now we got an even more contrast, right? So I got the title or whatever I'm trying to say, whatever I'm referring to, and then the text. Okay? I might bring this out just a little bit so some of that falls on the same line. Ah, I want art to follow that line too. There we go. So yeah, so I can do these little things. So now people will kind of know that this is the question, this is the answer. Other ways you can do that is you can change the color. And this is me going over presentation design for you guys. Okay. And this should, I will hope this will influence, how you do presentations in other classes. I'm gonna give you a secret. Sometimes a nice presentation will get you the grade, I mean, your teacher or he or she's gonna, look at the information, of course, but a nice presentation shows effort. Give me a bit of free game right there. So you can design a nice presentation and it saves you. In fact, President Trump, a lot of times on his briefings, they don't even go over the proper information with them. They go over what they can put into like nice slides. Isn't that crazy? So some corporate type people, like all they care about is pretty slides. How can we make it look presentable? Okay. All right. So I can add that, and I'm gonna stop right here. So I might put bio right here. And look how I'm not crowding the text. Like I don't have to put every single piece of text on this one slide. Okay, we're gonna let this slide breathe a little bit. I think Arial has a bold, so I'm gonna use Arial bold for my title. It doesn't. Okay, so I'm gonna change my typeface to Montserrat. And you say, okay, why are we doing that? I'm gonna do that because you see all these different options. These different options give me the ability to have some variance when I'm designing. So I'm gonna change this to Montserrat as well. My normal font is gonna be uh, medium, but then so where I had that bold, not come back in, I can do like extra bold, extra. So that way I have even more contrast on there. You see how that looks? All right, do the same thing for these. Some of y'all probably like, man, I don't know what we're doing. But I'm gonna post a video so you guys can watch it, and I'll try to put some time markers in there so you kind of know what you're watching at different time markers. So I'm watching for extra bold, and so that kind of messed up my alignment. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna also add an image, which we can do by just dragging. Um, nope, that's not it. That's the old. So I know I was gonna show you guys two things. Like Hebrew Brantley was in he was in the Chance the Rapper video. In fact, like the whole concept for that Angels video is based on like Hebrew Brantley. Like you see Chance has on like the goggles and stuff. And then Jay-Z also bought this painting from him. This one right here. So I was gonna put that one in my presentation. You know, might add like a little annotation at the bottom. All right. Boom. Let's try to center it. There it is. Okay. So for my image, I might put like a little annotation or something. You know. Uh, so I think the painting has a name, so we'll put like the name of the painting. Everybody's scared by Hebrew Brantley. By the Everybody's Scared. What is this? Everybody. Hebrew Brantley. And the printers I might put bought by rapper Easy. Right. It's just a little annotation, so I'm gonna make it smaller. It's not totally necessary. Like I said, I just want to show you guys how to make better presentations while we're doing it. So we're getting to design a little bit. We're getting to do, little things. But even if you don't want to be a designer, everybody can benefit from making better presentations. Whenever I have the title of something, I have to put it in italics or parentheses, depending on what format. Everybody, that's the everybody. Okay, everybody's scared by Hebrew Brantley bought by rapper Jay-Z, right? So now my slides can kind of have this different energy. Now, like I said, what I would do if I was you guys is I would try to keep this similar. So even this right here, I might change colors to that red because I said I got the red in the first slide. But yeah, so just try to keep the same energy across. Actually, I don't know that. Maybe make it white. But just try to keep the same vibe going through it. Okay, keep it consistent, using the same colors, the same typeface. If you use Montserrat in the first typeface, you might have one other typeface, something that's a little flashy, but then you also need to have something that people can read very easily. Okay, if I did my whole presentation in this typeface, and this one right here, it'd be hard to read. Okay. All right, and it'd be hard to organize. The cool part about like sans serifs and stuff like that is they're kind of really made in squares, and squares are modular, right? So even if you look at stacking squares and building with blocks, it's a lot easier to build with blocks than it is to build with circles or polygons or whatever other shapes, cylinders and stuff like that. So when you build with squares, it's a lot easier. Same thing visually on a 2D plane. If you choose these typefaces that are kind of square, then it's easier to organize and design and kind of move them over, sit them in corners or sit them dead in the middle of the page, and then make blocks of text. Okay. All right. My people online, do you guys have any questions? I know I kind of said a lot. Do you have any questions? If you don't have any questions, type good in the chat. And I'm going to stop my recording.